Hi, it's Carlos again. Um, I did forget to I had it on the table, but I also use an ultra fine retractable Sharpie to mark my lines. A couple of reasons. One is that it leaves very nice dark lines, and with one hand I can retract it and pull it back out. And again, I'm all about simple and fast, so I use this a lot. Um, anyway, this is a sheet of foam board, and I marked the lines for Pickerel. And this is I marked up the drawing. This is not. I'm gonna have to redraw this anyway. But I'm always making changes. I'm always trying to make it simpler and better and less error prone. So anyway, so I just went through and I marked the lines along the edges. And this sheet of foam board is terrible. I mean, it doesn't have a square side to it, and you just have to do your best. I tend to mark everything based on this bottom edge. So just get the bottom edge lined up, and mark a center line, and just start marking along the edges, and just do your best. This is like every angle was just a little bit off, but the measurements are not critical. You're just trying to get the shape on there to fit the foam board, centered. So anyway, I marked it up. Now is a good time to stop and check because I haven't cut anything. So look at the drawing, make sure that everything looks right. I made this a little bit further back to to have the CG a little bit more to the nose, but also to strengthen this the juncture here, because when I had the crash last with the prototype number 3, that's where it broke. So now that's a thicker section. I tweaked some of the other numbers just to make things come out a little bit easier. I want to be able to fit a support dowel, square dowel here. So I pushed that a little bit forward. So it's just tweaks, nothing major. It's looking good. So the next step is to cut it and to take the paper off. Hi, it's Carlos again from RC Advisor. I've cut out the Pickerel design and marked it up before. Something you may want to do, I don't normally do this, but after I marked it up, I've checked the plan to make sure that the lines are right and I haven't left anything out. You may want to go with the marker and just put X's on the pieces that you're going to be cutting out. And that's just a nice it's a safety check, so that which because sometimes you're going to end up with lines that don't need to be cut out. You should not be cutting out. So this is a way of kind of like knowing, okay, yeah, that's a piece that's going to get cut out. So mark these triangles. And again, I don't normally do it. I rarely cut something by mistake. But anyway, here's the Pickerel. It's basically a one-piece wing. Right now it's got a little bit of a bend this way. So I'll see what happens after I take the paper off. And there might be a very slight bend, in which case I'm going to build it just so that to have some dihedral on it. But it's probably going to be almost nothing, and by the time I'm done gluing on the dowels, all that is going to go away anyway. So here's the blank. So then the next step is I'm going to just wet it with alcohol and put it inside the bag, the garbage bag, for maybe half an hour. Now I'm also going to need some supports here and there, and I think I'm probably going to end up putting a small rudder on here. So I just have, this is a quarter sheet of foam board. Foam board, I cut it into 4. And of course, this is what I use for my half-size prototypes. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to just put this in the bag with this and take the paper off at the same time. And then, then cut the pieces that I need. And I know it's not quite long enough. It's okay. It's not that critical. And also for the supporting dowels, I'm going to do this in one piece and then cut a slat for the supporting dowels. Of course, the leading edge dowels, they just get glued on. And it seems to be easier for me, just to keep track of things. So anyway, that's how I like to do things. So the next step is gonna be to take the paper off and to glue the supports. Hi, it's Carlos from RC Advisor. I got the foam out of the trash bag. In fact, I only waited like 15 minutes, and I think a big factor has to do with how much alcohol you put on there. And I put quite a bit because I'm in a hurry. So if you get it pretty well soaked before you put it in the bag, then it just doesn't take very long. 15 minutes and it was ready to come off. Of course, this is a single piece airplane, so a little bit of it was just almost sticking out, and that's okay. I just put something on top of the end of it so that it stayed wet. So I pulled it out. The foam still has just a tiny little bit of a bend to it, so I have it this way so it's dihedral. But again, by the time I'm done building this and I put in the dowels, it's going to be flat. So I've got it lined up on the lines on the cutting board, and I've marked off the foam support, and I may change it when I draw it up, but what I've been using is 1 inch wide, which of course it is at a diagonal, which works out to about 25% of the cord for the support. And so it's pretty easy because I can just cut these long strips of foam just 1 inch wide, and then I just have to cut the angles and the length. There is a support on the nose. Again, it's just a triangle. Just make sure that it fits. And then my strip was a little bit too short, so I just have a little bit of an extension. And then I have a couple of strips here for the rear wing. So it's real straightforward. After I cut them out, I take my marker and I mark the outline, and that's because when I glue this, I'm going to be using the glue stick, and I'm going to be working relatively quickly. So if I mark the outline, I know how far to put the glue stick, and I put the glue stick on the piece and the main piece of foam, so on both sides. And I've learned that even if the color has gone away, it's still good. It's almost like a contact cement at that point. I mean, you can still reposition it a little bit, but it just goes together really well. I do have a couple of joints, these foam to foam joints. I could use the glue stick, but if the joint is not very tight fitting, then it doesn't work so well. So for those, I'm going to use the Loctite. So then I need to be a little careful because those are going to take longer to dry. I mean, the glue stick stuff, you can, I guess, I think within half an hour it's pretty much set and ready to be manipulated. So anyway, that's the next step. Pretty much it. I made myself like a little kit of all the pieces, flip them over, put the glue stick, put the Loctite. Have to use a little bit of a paper towel. And then I need to use a bunch of these weights on there just to make sure things don't move. So this may be the step where I use the most weights, because I'm going to use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, at least 7, and I've got 9, so I'll probably use all of them because I want it to be flat. I know my building board is flat, so if I glue it flat, then the airplane will be flat, and I just don't want things to get messed up. So anyway, that's the next step. Hi, it's Carlos again. I've glued on the foam support using mostly the glue stick, but also using some of the Loctite crafters. And so I did all of them at once. I make sure everything was very nice and straight. Make sure it was all pressed down. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pieces that I did, and then I grabbed all of my weights and put them on there. Make sure that when the glue dries, everything is flat. So while that was drying, I started getting, in a sense, I built the rest of the kit. I started working with the wood, and this is the 3/16 dowel, which is a little bit bigger than what I've used before. I've used 1/8, but I think it's a better choice, especially in this airplane that just needs, is getting all the support from this. So I tend to cut my wood just a little bit longer than I think I need, because it's easy enough to just sand it down to size. So I'll do like 1/8 of an inch longer, and I use my little meter bags to cut it. The dowels are really easy. And here's another, and I'm seeing I'm seeing the consequences of the foam board not being quite straight to begin with, but the difference is just not that much, and you do what you can. So then I cut this. This is 3/8 square dowel, and I believe this is 2 inches long. I measured carefully because in the third prototype I had messed this up. It wasn't centered. So it's a 3/8 by 2 inch slot in the foam. I cut a support piece which is 2 inches by 3, and I just rounded it. I should sand this a little bit before I glue it. And this is 2 inches plus 3/8 because it needs to stick out the back for the motor mount to go on it. Now, a mistake I made before is that I glued this on, and then I realized I need a hole through it for the to secure the motor mount. And drilling the hole after it's glued on is a lot harder. So everything is measured. It fits in there. I have the support already ready to go. So it kind of goes like that. But before I glue it, I'm going to drill that hole. I have a drill press which makes it easy, but it's not too hard. Maybe the hardest thing to do was actually just cutting the piece of wood because it's so thick. So it took quite a bit of going. So I'm going to get all my pieces ready, and then I'm going to glue. I'm going to glue the motor mount. I'm going to glue the support, and I'm going to glue the leading edge dowels. For the foam to foam, I'll use the glue stick, but I'm going to mostly be using the Loctite, which, I like to let it sit for at least an hour before I move it. And then after that, it's really, as far as supports, only two things are going to be left. It's going to be the support here and the support here. But both of those, I'm actually going to glue on from the bottom. Okay, so I'm going to be flipping it over to do those. So anyway, it's looking good, real simple, real straightforward. And so I'm going to be gluing again the leading edge and the motor mount. Let that dry for a little bit, and then I'll be doing the two supports, and then I'll be almost done, because then I need to cut the elevons, but that's pretty straightforward. So I started building this morning, and it's going to be an easy build, easy one-day build. Anyway, till next step. I got another update. Like I said before, I glued the leading edge round dowels. They're 3/16. I used the glue stick on the support foam, and I used the Loctite on the motor mount, the wood motor mount. And I mean, most of these use the Loctite stuff, so I know I need to let it sit for a little while, but as you can tell, everything is pretty well weighed down. I want to make sure especially at this step, I want to make sure that those dowels are glued on straight, because then the airplane will be straight. And just a comment on this glue, it's got the consistency of like a hand cream. It's white and it's thick. It doesn't flow, but I don't try and have it be completely even, especially when I'm doing something like those dowels. And I guess I could, it's non-toxic, so I can touch it, and I definitely did that with the motor mount. But I just try and make sure there's at least some glue somewhere along this pan, because after it dries, it's pretty easy to go back and put some more glue. It's not like it weighs a ton. And I'm probably gonna see some small gaps here and there that didn't get anything, so I just go through and add some more, and that's easy. Um, so it's not a big deal, and I think things are looking really good. Again, I need to wait a little bit more before I move this, but then the next step is going to be to lift it up, turn it upside down, and glue in the 3/16 square dowel support. There's going to be a long one at the back that's going to go from wingtip to wingtip, and there's going to be a smaller one in front that's going to go right in front of the motor mount. So then I'm going to end up with a wooden skeleton, which is the way I like to do things. So there's going to be wood, all the pieces of wood are going to be touching each other, and that just makes it a nicer, stronger design. So anyway, it's coming along well, but now I really just need to wait. Hi, it's been about an hour and a half since I glued the dowels and the motor mount in place. After an hour I checked it and I thought it was still a little bit too wet, so I waited a little bit more, and you can still see that it's not completely dry, but all I did was take the tape off and just flip it over, and I've got a couple of weights here just so that it doesn't move, and so it'll be fine. I mean, it's not like I'm twisting it or putting a load on it. I just need for it to sit still. So these are my 3/16 square dowels, and I'm measuring from wingtip to wingtip, which should be 30 inches, but of course the foam board could be a little bit off, but it's about 30 inches. This one I'm measuring from the leading edge of the motor mount, and it's about almost 15 inches. And then I cut the ends off at 45-degree angle, which I don't think the angle is quite 45, but it's pretty close. So I got two pieces that are both ends at 45 degrees, so that, and I've checked it, and also I marked on the foam where they're gonna go. Okay, so then the next step is gonna be, I'm gonna use the rulers and cut that slot, do a trial fit. It should be, hopefully it should be snug, but I always have to do just a little bit of tweaking on the foam or on your sanding on the end. So I'm going to cut both slots, the one in the back, the one in the front. So trial fit them. So once I'm happy, use the Loctite and just put it on the dowel. I'm not going to try and get the glue onto the foam in there, but put it on the dowel, do both of them, and then flip the whole thing over, because I want the bottom to be flat while this is drying. So then at that point, I'm going to be pretty much done. The only thing that's going to be left to do is the cutting out the control surfaces and and hinging them, which I always kind of end up with a little bit of a time issue, because the last thing I end up doing is gluing the control horn, and if I use glue, that means I really need to leave it there overnight, even though everything else happened in one day. So so it's up to you, but you know what? I think I'm actually going to try and be a little smarter. So once I flip it over, there's no reason why I can't put the control horn on there and then cut the control surface out. So I may end up doing that, and then all the gluing will happen today. So then tomorrow morning, I'm going to be hinging the control surfaces, but that's okay. The strength is pretty good right away, so I could fly this tomorrow. Anyway, I'm about to put the support spars on Pickerel, and it's looking good so far. Hi, I decided to change my building sequence a little bit. Like I was saying before, what normally ends up happening is that I build the whole structure, then I cut off the elevons, and using the Medipore edge to put those back on is not a problem. The problem is, and then the last step becomes cutting a little slot and putting the control horn in there. Well, I pretty much have no choice but to glue that in, but then I have to wait for that glue to dry, and I've used the the perfect glue for that because it dries a little bit faster, but you still really need to leave it there overnight. So trying to avoid that extra delay, I'm trying to pretty much get all the gluing done today. So then I can let it sit overnight and then mount the radio gear and it'll be ready to go in the morning. The problem, so I said, okay, let me, I cut the slats for the spars and they're in there and that went really well. But then it said, okay, I need to cut the elevons. And what I do is that I just take a ruler, hold it against the foam, and then I take a knife at 45 degrees and I basically just, let the ruler guide me. And I've been doing it that way for a long time, and it always works out. Sometimes I mess up and the angle is not quite right, but it doesn't have to be perfect because then I tape both surfaces at the top and the bottom, so it really covers up and it makes up for any mistakes in the cutting. So anyway, so I had cut the slide for this part. This part is in there right now, but it's not glued in yet. And I flipped it over and I cut the elevons off. Now of course, if you look at the drawing, this part goes from wingtip to wingtip, and I had to cut away the support. So the minute I did that, the whole bottom of the airplane basically came loose. Which is okay. I mean, that's it's not a big deal. So anyway, so I've hinged the top side of the elevons. I cut them and I hinged the top, and that's fine. And in a minute, I'm gonna put the Loctite crafters on this spar. I need to flip it over, take it out, put the glue, put it back in, and do the same thing with the one in the front. Then flip it over again, weigh it all down. So then I'm going to have something that's going to be pretty, pretty good shape. And then I can cut the little slot for the control horn and glue that in, and then I'll be done with gluing. I haven't hinged the bottom just because it was a little bit of a mess, but that's no big deal. I can do that tomorrow. That's easy. So that's what I'm going to do. I don't know if this is the best way to do it, but I'm trying to cut a day out of the, I really want this to be a one-day build so I can fly the next day. And, I'm probably going to come up with a better sequence later, but this will work. It's just things got just a little bit messy, and again, the bottom part kind of came loose because, this part goes all the way through, and I had to cut the support, which is what was holding things in place. So anyway, I'm almost there, and I used some masking tape just to stabilize this bottom part. And in fact, I think I'm going to add some more because I think that worked well. It's like once I put the glue on this part, I want things to pretty much stay in place, and I'm probably going to end up putting some masking tape on the other side before I flip it over again. So anyway, it's getting there. Hi, I'm back. I glued these parts on. That wasn't too hard. I had put some extra masking tape on this side, so when I flipped it over, that piece stayed in place. So I put the Loctite glue on both sides of the spar, put it back in there, flipped it over, both spars, flipped it over, weighed it down, and so then what I did, I cut the slot. Well, it's a little trick that I've learned. Is that to see, it can be hard to see where the hinge line is. So I bent up the elevon, took a ruler, held it against the hinge line, and drew a line. So I don't know if you can see, but there's a line there right on the hinge line, and it's really handy because it helps me see where the control horn needs to go. So I do the hinge line. I have already drawn a point there. I think it's 3 inches from the end to where I wanted the control horn. So I cut the control horn slot. I decided to stick with my perfect glue just because that's a critical joint, and you know, it can be hard for air to get in there for the glue to dry, but I know this stuff will dry. So I fill the hole with perfect glue, put in the control horn, make sure they're both lined up with each other. Of course, everything is weighed down, make sure the spar is in place. Everything is looking great. I still haven't put the tape on the bottom. It should be okay. It shouldn't be a problem to do that tomorrow. And otherwise everything is looking really good. Everything is weighed down. Everything looks, you know, pretty good shape. So anyway, so I think I'm done for today. I'm probably gonna do a little bit of work charging the batteries, but everything that's left, I think I'm waiting until tomorrow. I am probably gonna put some Velcro on top of the motor mount and maybe a little bit forward, and the Velcro I usually like to put some glue on it to help it stick better. So I may do that tonight. You know, I can do that later. But the sun is going down on and off. This was about maybe half a day of work. I mean, you know, really less, but you know, I had to wait a little while here and there for the glue to dry. So anyway, I'm excited. I think I have another airplane almost ready to fly. If I decide to paint it, that paint that I use dries pretty quickly, so I can do that tomorrow. So we'll see what happens. Hi. Well, I made a mistake and I ran into a problem, but this is the next day from the previous video. I glued the main support spars in. I cut and taped the top of the hinges. I put the control horn in place. I weighed everything down and I let it sit overnight. Well, so I came back this morning, lifted up all the weights, and all of a sudden it's like, oops, I made a mistake. And I'm gonna include it in the video because it's something that is an easy mistake to make. The mistake is that I cut the elements off. I took my ruler and my knife and I put it like this, and I held it 45-degree angle, and I've done that many times, and that works okay. The problem was I cut them and then I took them just the way they were and I taped them in, which is, of course, it's not how you do it. You have to flip it upside down, because I had a 45-degree angle in one, 45-degree angle in the other one. So basically it hinges up, which is all that I tested, and it's all because I was trying to do too many things at once. I was trying to do that right after I had glued the main spar in place, and I didn't want to touch it. I didn't want to move it very much. So it's wrong. So if you can see it now, it's I got the top is hinged and it goes up pretty well, but it really doesn't. It really can't go down. And then when I pushed it down, I actually separated the foam from the main spar, and it's a little bit hard to see, but I shouldn't be able to go down much at all, and I can, and it's because it's separated, and that's the problem. So I made a mistake and I ran into a problem, and then I looked at this more carefully. I mean, the spar in the front, that looks really good. I mean, I have just a little bit of a gap maybe on the bottom, but otherwise it's very solid. I switched to 3/16 dowels in this build. I think that was a great choice. Gives it a lot of strength. Let me do a quick weigh in on this. So in order to weigh it, I have to zero out with something heavy. So I'm going to zero it out. Okay, so now I can put the airplane on there and put that on there. Here we go. It's 2.1 ounces for basically the whole airframe, which is really good. So I'm happy about that. So then, let me see. So I've got the glue it came loose. I have the whole section here where this spar is barely glued on the front and it's basically loose on the back. So this is moving back and forth. And this here, it's a little bit loose. Of course, a lot of it is because I forced it loose. But I'm also seeing a gap in front of the spar. So the whole thing needs to be re-glued. And these are just plain wrong. I mean, I need to change the drawing to show them with this angle on the inside, just to have it clear that you need to cut it and then flip it upside down. So, though this is no good because they need to be flipped over, and this control horn is going to be in the wrong place. So there's no way I could fly today, but the wind is not so good today, and it's not going to be so good over the next couple of days. So I shouldn't be trying to rush anyway. I pulled out, this is the prototype number 3. Of course, I've stripped off the electronics, and I just put some tape on it because this is the one that I crashed. But looking at it, the design changed a little bit, but the glue is holding up pretty well. And it did come loose over here though, and this one has an advantage. If you compare them side by side, the foam here is going over that piece. Of course, the downside is that then the spar was sticking out the front, which I was trying to avoid with this one. This one I shifted up that angle, I decreased the angle, shifted up that joint. So then the spar is not sticking out the front, but then I don't have the advantage of this support. So I don't know. And in this one, this is a little bit hard to see because of the tape, but there's actually a thin piece of foam, maybe 1/4 of an inch, right in front of the spar. But that in this one, it seems to be glued on fairly well, even though this piece is loose. So I think I need to think about this a little bit better, a little bit more, because this power, of course, is what adding the strength to the back of the airplane, but it forced me to cut the foam all the way across. And so that means I need to have a really good glue joint between the wood and the foam. And I haven't done, most of this is pretty good. Of course, the spar in the front seems to work out much better. So there's no reason why I couldn't have a good glue joint. I think this one I may have had to do some reinforcing, but I haven't. That one doesn't seem to need much. So I think it's workable as a design, but I just need to, I guess I needed to add a lot more glue, but of course I was messing with it while I was trying to do the hinging. So it was just a bad combination all around. Definitely salvageable. I think the basic build is looking great. I'm very tempted to add some sort of support here. I don't know. I need to think about it. But anyway, the wind is not helping, so it's not like I'm in a big rush to try and fly it. So I'm going to think about it, not rush. I need to get these things out. I'm probably going to have to build another set of elevons, because getting the control horn out of here is going to just probably pull a chunk of foam out. So that's fine. That's a really easy piece to build. And of course, the other thing I realized after I taped it, is that I had not put the reinforcing tape on it. And it's reasonably strong, but I definitely need to put that clear packaging tape on there. So that's another little blunder that I made. So I'm probably going to I'm going to fix it. I don't know if I'm going to do a redesign on there, but definitely I needed to take more care with that glue joint and those elevons. So anyway, Um, Let me think about it until next time. Hi, it's Carlos again. It's I think it's about 3 days since the last video of the Pickerel build, and as I said before, I ran into a problem back here because I glued this supporting spar back here, and before letting it dry, I taped on the elevons because I wanted to glue the control horns at the same time, because then I could let it sitting overnight. Well, I totally messed it up. I mean, I was rushing, I didn't think things through, so I glued the elevons on upside down so that they could go up, but they couldn't go down, so that was no good. Well, I didn't. I mean, the elevons were not glued; they were taped, but I had glued on the control horn, and the way to fix them, I had to flip them upside down, so the control horn was no good. And then in my rush to get that done, I wasn't paying a lot of attention to the main spar, so the gluing job of the main spar was terrible. There were gaps all along the way, and it was bad. So I backed off. I said, okay, I'm rushing, I'm getting sloppy. So what I did is I re-glued the main spar. I made sure that it had plenty of glue, and you can I don't know how well you can see, but I made sure it had plenty of glue on both sides of it. Of course, I wiped off the excess, make sure it had pressure on it. I put on a little bit more on here, but this one was in pretty good shape, and this supporting the motor mount, that looked fine to me. I didn't add anything to that, and I waited like 5 hours just to make sure it was pretty dry, and then I started messing with the elevons. And I was able to take the control horns out without destroying the foam, so that was good. So I basically flipped them over. I do like the look of this, them sticking out. So I decided, I wanted that. And I put on the Medipore H tape, glued that on with the Perfect Glue. And I came back the next day, I weighed everything down, came back the next day, and it looked pretty good. I'm pretty happy with how that came out. So the fact that I kind of messed it up, I don't think it's going to affect the final airplane. I was able to fix everything, so I'm pretty happy with that. After I cartwheeled prototype number 3, this is one of the servos that I was using. It's an HXT 500 Hextronic, very inexpensive servo, which I've been using for a long time. But after I cartwheeled the airplane and I got home, I noticed that I had lost the bottom plastic piece of the servo. And I was thinking of retiring these servos anyway. I've used them a lot, and I said, okay, well, this is my excuse for getting rid of them, not use them anymore. So I went through my servo bags. I have I keep my stuff in containers like this. This is the one for servos, so I have servos in here, and I kind of try and keep things organized. I don't have a ton of space to be disorganized. And I found these 2 servos. I think I had 2 of them. It's a Spectrum DSP 75. I think they're just like 6-gram servos. I think I have the spec sheet right here. It's a 7.5-gram servo with the torque 19-inch or ounce-inch torque at 5 volts, and I believe they're digital also. And I've been wanting to move to use more digital servos. So in fact, I just ordered a couple of a different brand because I want them for the Kilo 3D. I think I ordered three servos, digital servos. Anyway, so I switched to servos, but I'm still using Spectrum receiver, 10 amp speed control, Blue Wonder motor. This is the same one as I used for the prototypes, and this is an old 500 milliamp hour 2-cell battery. So anyway, mounted the servos, checked everything with the radio. The balance point, it's coming out right about at the motor mount. And of course, this motor mount, the motor is about an inch lower than the last prototype, and I did that on purpose because I wanted the CG to be a little further back, so that I had a little bit more room to move the battery up. And also I wanted to strengthen, have this be a little meatier. So this is a little wider than the prototype, because when it cartwheeled, that's where it broke. So there's different reasons why I made some of the changes. I put, this is probably, you probably can't see this, there we go. But this is clear heavy duty packaging tape. And I don't usually do this, but I feel this part is a little bit exposed, especially if you do like a tail landing. So I just put some tape around it. This has tape too. There you can see it, and I put some on the other side. I don't usually do that, but I'm always trying new things. So what's the total weight? What has changed since the last prototype? Not a lot. The elements are a little smaller. I mean, really, the main difference is that I switched from 1/8 inch round dowels to 3/16, and I just weighed this. It was coming up at 6.1 ounces, which is the same as prototype 3, but I just weighed it, came up 6.2, so it's probably right in between those two. I'm really happy. 6.2 is lighter than most of the modified prototypes, and I had unlimited vertical. It's the same power system, and the whole point of this airplane is to have a fun to fly model that's very maneuverable. You can fly in small spaces, really easy to build, something that looks different, and I think I've accomplished that. Of course, I'm about to go and test fly it, but I'm pretty happy with how it came out. I still have to do a little bit more work on it. I need to make sure these are not going to move around and mess up with the motor. I haven't sanded the leading edge there or here, and I know that's important, but that doesn't take very long. So all the batteries are charged, so I as soon as I do the sanding and I finish with the video, I think I may go and do some test flying. It's a little bit of wind today, but it's not as bad as it's been. So and I'm going to shoot a close-up of the airplane just to let you really see what it looks like. This camera has a really good macro, so I'm going to grab the camera and just kind of do a walk around to help you see what the finished model really looks like. Hi, this is the walk around of the completed Pickerel, hopefully the final prototype, and I'm going to zoom in, let you see what it looks like. You can have a pretty good look there at the supporting heavy duty clear packaging tape on the Elevon. This is the control horn, and I used the perfect glue on that, and that's just a bent piece of piano wire. So that's the control horn. You can see the Mediport H tape. I just cut away the support on the foam there, and there's a small gap between the Elevon and the spar, and that's foam partly to give it the right angle that it needs to have. This is the spar goes around, the support goes over the spar just a little bit, and again I haven't sanded the leading edge, but otherwise it's pretty straightforward. You can see the leading edge dowel there, and it's the leading edge dowel. It's at the there we go. It's at the bottom. It's glued to the main bottom part of the foam. There's the motor. I've got this mount on there. And I cut a piece of a paper clip, and that's what I'm using to secure that mount to the dowel. You can see there on the side. Use Velcro. I put glue. I put perfect glue on the foam and the wood before I put down the Velcro, and then let it sit for like 5 minutes, and then I put the sticky back Velcro just to make sure I have a good joint there. Usually, I've never really had issues with that. The receiver and speed control and servos are on with heavy duty double-sided tape. Here's the tape that I used for that. So they call it permanent double-sided tape from Scotch, and it works really well. The only issue with that is that if the tape comes loose or you have to pull it loose for whatever reason, you have to replace it. You can't glue it back down and expect it to stick. It just kind of doesn't want to stick after you pull it out. And that's the nose. So the dowels just kind of come together. I may round just the front of it just a little bit, but otherwise it's pretty straightforward. You can see the dowel goes all the way to the back here to the L1, and the two spars end at the dowels. You can see this middle spar that goes all the way around. So all the wood is touching, and the motor mount ends at the spar. So all the wood is touching each other, and that's part of the strength. And it seems to be pretty strong. So I'm happy with it. So anyway, that's the walk around of the finished Pickerel final prototype.